They don't just see what you show, they notice what you avoid. Before you explain yourself, before you fully reveal anything, an INFJ is already picking up on the parts you're not saying, the hesitation, the inconsistency, the shift in your energy when something gets too close to the truth. What makes this uncomfortable for some people is that it's not obvious. INFJs don't call it out immediately. They observe, connect patterns, and quietly understand the version of you that exists behind the one you present. And because they don't react the way others do, people often don't realize they've already been seen. In this video, we're breaking down how INFJs see the version of you that you're hiding, and why it happens without them trying. The subtle signals they read, the patterns they connect, and the reason their awareness can feel both comforting and unsettling at the same time. If you've ever felt like someone understood you without you saying much, stay until the end and subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind for more insights into the hidden psychology most people never notice. They notice micro-expressions that contradict your words, micro-expression caught, words misaligned, truth exposed. There is a moment when you say something, and for a fraction of a second, your face says something else. It's quick, almost invisible. A slight tension around the eyes, a delayed smile, a subtle shift in your expression before you correct it. Most people miss it. The INFJ doesn't. This awareness isn't dramatic, it's precise. The INFJ doesn't react to the words alone. They observe the transition before the words fully settle. What appears confident may carry hesitation for a split second. What sounds certain may show doubt before it's covered, and that brief contradiction becomes enough. Not to judge, not to confront, but to understand that what's being said is not the full picture. From the outside, nothing changes. The conversation continues, your explanation sounds complete, your tone remains controlled. But internally, the INFJ has already adjusted their perception. They are no longer taking the words at face value. They are holding both layers, what you said and what briefly appeared before it. And that difference reshapes how they interpret everything that follows. What makes this powerful is that micro-expressions cannot be sustained or fully controlled. They appear before intention can manage them, and because of that, they reveal something closer to the truth than the words that follow. The INFJ doesn't need repeated proof. One moment is enough to signal misalignment. Over time, this becomes a pattern. The INFJ doesn't rely on long explanations to understand someone. They look for small, unfiltered signals that appear before control is applied. And when those signals contradict what is being said, they prioritize what was shown, not what was stated. Because for the INFJ, truth is not always in the words. It's in what appears before the words have time to fully form. And when that moment is noticed, the version of you that you're trying to manage becomes visible anyway. They track shifts in your tone when certain topics come up. Tone shift detected. Topic linked. Pattern flagged. There is a moment when the conversation moves to a specific subject, and your voice changes slightly. Not enough for most people to notice. A small drop in energy, a quicker response, a subtle tightness in how you speak. The words stay controlled, but the tone doesn't stay the same. And the INFJ catches that shift instantly. This tracking is quiet but consistent. The INFJ doesn't react to the first change. They observe it, store it, and wait. The next time that topic appears, they listen again. Does the tone shift the same way? Does the pace change? Does the response feel slightly forced? These small variations begin to align, and when they repeat, they are no longer random. They form a pattern. From the outside, the conversation feels normal. The topic changes, the discussion continues, nothing obvious signals anything unusual. But internally, the INFJ has already connected the shift to the subject. They are no longer just hearing what you say about it. They are observing how you change when it appears, and that difference reveals more than the explanation itself. What makes this powerful is that tone is difficult to control consistently. Words can be prepared, explanations can be structured. But tone reflects internal state, and internal state cannot be perfectly managed across repeated moments. The INFJ doesn't need direct admission. The shift itself becomes the indicator. Over time, this becomes a reliable signal. The INFJ identifies which topics create tension, hesitation, or subtle discomfort. They don't need to ask directly. They don't need to confront. The pattern reveals where something is not fully expressed. Because for the INFJ, meaning is not only in what you say, it is in how your tone moves when certain things are touched. And when that movement repeats, the part of you you're trying to keep steady becomes visible through the change you can't fully hide. They remember inconsistencies you assume were forgotten, details stored, timeline intact, mismatch retained. There is a moment when you say something and it doesn't fully align with what you said before. It's small, not obvious. A slight difference in how you describe a situation, a shift in your explanation, a detail that doesn't match the previous version. Most people move past it. The INFJ doesn't. This memory is not random recall, it's structured retention. The INFJ doesn't remember everything, they remember what doesn't fit. What felt slightly off at the time is stored even if it wasn't addressed. And when something similar appears again, it connects instantly. The present statement is not isolated, it is compared to what came before. From the outside, nothing seems different. The conversation continues. Your explanation sounds complete. The shift is subtle enough to go unnoticed. But internally, the INFJ has already registered the inconsistency, not as a judgment, not as a conclusion, but as a signal. Something doesn't align, and that misalignment stays active. What makes this powerful is that inconsistencies reveal patterns over time. A single difference may not mean anything, but when similar mismatches appear across moments, they form structure. The INFJ doesn't need confrontation to see it. The repetition builds clarity on its own. Over time, this becomes a quiet form of verification. The INFJ doesn't rely on what is said in one moment. They rely on whether it holds across time. And when it doesn't, the inconsistency becomes more meaningful than the explanation itself. Because for the INFJ, understanding is not based on isolated statements. It is based on continuity. And once something changes without reason, what you assumed was forgotten becomes the exact detail that defines how they see you. They observe what you avoid more than what you say. Avoidance noted, silence tracked, meaning revealed. There is a moment when a topic appears and you move around it instead of through it. You answer part of the question, shift the focus, add details that don't fully address what was asked. The words are there, but something is missing. And for the INFJ, what's missing becomes the focus. This observation is not based on what is spoken, it's based on what is consistently left out. The INFJ listens for gaps, questions that don't receive direct answers, subjects that change the tone of the conversation, areas that are approached but never entered fully. These gaps don't disappear, they stay active, forming a pattern over time. From the outside, the interaction feels complete. The conversation moves forward. Explanations sound sufficient. Nothing seems intentionally hidden. But internally, the INFJ is not following the words alone. They are tracking the direction of the conversation, where it flows naturally and where it diverts. And those diversions reveal more than the direct statements. What makes this powerful is that avoidance is difficult to hide consistently. It doesn't appear once, it repeats across different situations, different conversations, different forms. The INFJ doesn't need to confront it directly. The pattern builds clarity on its own. Over time, this becomes a reliable signal. The INFJ doesn't focus on what you choose to share, they focus on what you consistently choose not to. And in that absence, meaning becomes visible, because for the INFJ, communication is not only about expression, it is about direction. And when the same areas are avoided repeatedly, what you are trying to keep out of the conversation becomes the part they understand the most. They detect when your energy changes around specific people. Energy shift, presence altered, pattern linked. There is a moment when someone enters the room and you change, not in a way that's obvious, not in something you can easily point out. Your posture adjusts slightly, your tone becomes sharper or softer, your responses come faster or slower. It's subtle, controlled, but it's different, and the INFJ notices it immediately. This detection doesn't rely on one moment. The INFJ observes the shift, stores it, and waits. The next time the same person appears, they watch again. Does your energy move the same way? Do your reactions follow a similar pattern? Do you become more guarded, more open, more reactive? These changes begin to connect, and when they repeat, they are no longer random, they become a signal. From the outside, everything feels normal. People interact, conversations continue, nothing appears out of place. But internally, the INFJ is tracking the difference between how you are normally and how you become in the presence of that specific person. And that difference reveals more than what is said directly. What makes this powerful is that energy is difficult to control consistently. Words can be adjusted, behavior can be managed, but energy, the subtle shift in how you carry yourself, changes automatically in response to internal state. And because of that, it reveals something real. Over time, this becomes a pattern of understanding. The INFJ doesn't need explanations about relationships, dynamics, or feelings. They observe how your energy changes in different contexts, and that becomes enough. The connection between people becomes visible through the shift it creates. Because for the INFJ, who you are is not only seen in isolation, it is seen in how you change around others. And when that change is consistent, the version of you that appears in those moments becomes just as real as the one you try to maintain everywhere else. They connect your present behavior to past patterns quickly. Present signal. Past pattern. Instant link. There's a moment when you do something small, and the INFJ doesn't see it as small. A reaction, a tone, a decision. It doesn't stay isolated. It connects immediately to something they've already observed. Not consciously, not slowly, but instantly. This looks familiar. This follows a structure they've seen before. And in that second, the present stops being just the present. It becomes part of a pattern. This connection is precise. The INFJ doesn't recall random memories. They match behaviors. How did you respond last time under pressure? What happened when a similar situation appeared? What did your tone reveal in a different context that felt almost identical? These references are not separate moments. They align into a continuous structure. And when your current behavior fits that structure, the meaning becomes clearer, faster than you expect. From the outside, nothing feels different. The moment passes, the action seems normal, the reaction doesn't stand out. But internally, the INFJ has already expanded it beyond what it appears to be. They are not just seeing what you did, they are recognizing what it resembles. And that resemblance carries weight. It suggests direction, not just action. It hints at where this behavior leads, not just what it is now. What makes this powerful is speed. Most people need repetition to see a pattern clearly. The INFJ sees early versions of it and connects them before they fully develop, not with certainty, but with enough alignment to adjust how they interpret you. And once that connection is made, every new behavior is filtered through it, strengthening or challenging the pattern they've already identified. Over time, this becomes a continuous process. The INFJ doesn't experience your actions as isolated events. They experience them as evolving sequences. Each moment adds context to the previous one. Each reaction either confirms or shifts the pattern they are tracking. And because of that, their understanding of you is not based on what you do once. It's based on how consistently your behavior aligns across time. Because for the INFJ, the present is never just the present. It is a reference point, and when that reference connects instantly to what has already been observed, they don't just see what you're doing now. They see the direction it's been moving in all along. They sense when your reactions are controlled rather than natural controlled reaction, natural flow missing, subtle tension detected. There's a moment when you respond, and everything seems correct. The words are appropriate, the tone is measured, the reaction fits the situation. Nothing is obviously wrong. But something doesn't feel natural. It feels adjusted, slightly delayed, slightly calculated. And the INFJ notices that difference immediately. This sensing is not based on what you say. It's based on how it unfolds. A natural reaction flows without interruption. It carries a rhythm that doesn't need to be managed. But a controlled reaction has structure. There's a pause before it appears, a slight correction in tone, a moment where the response is shaped before it's released. These details are small, but they don't go unnoticed. From the outside, everything appears stable. The reaction seems calm, appropriate, even composed. But internally, the INFJ is not reading the surface. They are observing the transition, the moment between stimulus and response. And when that transition feels managed instead of immediate, it signals that something is being filtered. What makes this powerful is that controlled reactions reveal intention, not necessarily deception, but adjustment. Something is being held back. reshaped, or redirected before it is expressed. And while the final response may sound complete, the process behind it suggests that it is not fully natural. Over time, this becomes a pattern. The INFJ begins to distinguish between how you react when you are fully present and how you respond when you are managing your expression. They don't rely on one moment, they observe consistency. And once the uncontrolled structure appears repeatedly, it becomes clear that part of your response is not being shown. Because for the INFJ, authenticity is not just in what is said, it is in how it arrives. And when the reaction is shaped before it reaches the surface, what you intended to present as natural becomes something they can see through without needing to question it directly. They read what you're trying to protect, not just what you reveal. Protection detected. Guarded area mapped, hidden priority exposed. There is a moment when you share something, and the INFJ is not focused on what you're saying. They're focused on what you're keeping safe, the way you phrase it, the parts you avoid, the tone you use when the topic gets close to something sensitive. All of it points in one direction, not what you reveal, but what you're protecting from being revealed. This reading is precise. The INFJ doesn't assume what you're hiding. They observe how you behave around certain areas, a topic you quickly move past, a detail you simplify more than necessary, a reaction that becomes more controlled when something personal is touched. These signals don't stay isolated. They connect into a clear structure that outlines where your boundaries are strongest. From the outside, everything feels normal. You're communicating, explaining, sharing what seems complete. But internally, the INFJ is mapping the edges of what isn't being said. They notice where your responses become shorter, where your tone tightens, where your attention shifts. And those moments don't disappear. They define the areas that matter most to you. What makes this powerful is that protection is consistent. People don't guard something once, they guard it repeatedly. Across different conversations, different contexts, different forms. And the INFJ tracks that consistency. They don't need direct admission. The repetition of protection reveals the importance of what's being kept. Over time, this becomes a deeper form of understanding. The INFJ doesn't define you by what you openly share. They define you by what you consistently protect. Because what you guard carries more weight than what you offer freely. It shows what matters, what affects you, what you are not ready to expose. Because for the INFJ, identity is not only an expression, it is in preservation. And when they read what you are trying to protect, they don't just see the version you present, they see the part of you that exists behind it, structured by what you refuse to let go of. They pick up on emotional tension you haven't expressed yet, unspoken tension, early signal, emotion before words. There is a moment when nothing has been said, but something is already present. The room is quiet, the conversation is normal, your words sound controlled. But beneath that, there's a shift. A slight tightness in your responses, a change in your breathing, a pause that lasts just a second longer than it should. It's subtle, almost invisible. But the INFJ feels it immediately. This awareness doesn't come from what you express, it comes from what builds before expression. The INFJ senses the pressure forming before it reaches the surface, not as a clear statement, not as a defined emotion, but as a signal. Something is about to surface, something is being held back, something is not aligned internally, and instead of waiting for it to be spoken, they register it as it develops. From the outside, everything appears stable. You are still speaking normally, still maintaining control, still presenting a version that feels composed. But internally, the INFJ is no longer responding to what you're saying. They are responding to what is forming underneath it. The conversation becomes secondary, the tension becomes the focus. What makes this powerful is timing. Most people recognize emotion after it is expressed. The INFJ recognizes it before it fully exists externally. They don't extant. They dissect the shift in your internal state before it becomes visible, before it turns into words, before it reaches a point where it can be explained. Over time, this becomes a pattern of early detection. The INFJ doesn't rely on direct expression to understand emotional states. They observe how tension builds, how it repeats, how it appears across different situations. And because they notice it early, they adjust before anything is said. Because for the INFJ, emotion is not defined by expression, it is defined by movement. And when they can feel that movement before it becomes visible, they don't just understand what you feel, they understand what you are about to feel before you even recognize it yourself. They recognize the version of you that only appears in certain moments, hidden version. Moment specific. Pattern recognized. There is a moment when you become someone slightly different and you don't even notice it. Not your usual tone, not your usual energy. Something shifts depending on the situation, the pressure, the person in front of you. It's brief, controlled. It disappears as quickly as it appears, that the INFJ sees it clearly. This recognition is not based on one instance. The INFJ observes how you change across different contexts, who you are when you feel comfortable, who you are when you feel challenged, who you are when something matters more than you want to show. These versions don't stay separate. They connect into a structure that reveals a deeper layer of identity, one that only appears under specific conditions. From the outside, these shifts feel temporary, a reaction in the moment, a tone that fades, a behavior that doesn't define you entirely. But internally, the INFJ does not dismiss it as temporary. They see it as part of you that is not always visible, but still real. And because it appears consistently in similar situations, it becomes predictable. What makes this powerful is that these moment-specific versions are often less controlled. They appear when attention is divided, when emotion is higher, when the usual structure of behavior is slightly disrupted. And in those moments, something more accurate slips through, not the version you maintain, but the version that exists underneath it. Over time, this becomes a complete picture. The INFJ doesn't define you by your most consistent behavior alone. They define you by all the versions that appear across different situations. And the ones they show up under pressure or in specific contexts often carry more weight than the ones you present most often. Because for the INFJ, identity is not fixed to one version. It is revealed through variation. And when they recognize the version of you that only appears in certain moments, they don't just see who you are most of the time, they see who you are when control is reduced and something more real takes its place. They don't tire to see through you, it just happens. Not because they're searching for flaws, but because they pay attention to what most people ignore, the small shifts, the contradictions, the patterns that repeat when you think no one notices. And over time, those details build a version of you that's deeper than the one you show on the surface. If you've ever felt like someone understood parts of you you never explained, now you know how. Let me know in the comments which of these signs felt the most accurate. And if you want to understand people at this level without overthinking it, subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind, where perception becomes clarity, not confusion.